Kim Williams, Anthony Fitzgerald, welcome to Ad News TV. Kim Williams, what do you read, view, listen to, download in a week?
Oh, I'm a real creature of the media, and I consume media constantly. I'm a very, very avid online user and iPad user. I read at least 4 or 5 newspapers a day. Increasingly, I do most of that, I have to say, on a pad. I read the Wall Street Journal most days. I read the Times regularly. I read the Australian. The only physical print publication I regularly read is the Fin Review.
Would you go to a digital version if
oh, without question. And I filled in a questionnaire that I was sent by the Fin Review recently, saying go iPad.
Right.
And I think that they'll make a terrific product there eventually. If you know, I don't know what their timetable is, but I'm sure they'll make a terrific product there. The Australian were a pioneer in the territory, and I'm sure that their application will evolve over time. I've been quite impressed, quite frankly, with a paper I'm not that I'm rarely impressed with, and that's the Sydney Morning Herald, paper with which I have many issues. But I must say, you know, good luck to them. Their applications are very good application.
Yeah.
In fact, I think, if I'm really honest, I think it's probably a bit too good in relation to what it's done to their print sales, because I can see no reason as to why you'd get the print publication now.
Right.
Then The Economist is a journal I have a deep affection for, both in terms of its application and in print. The New Yorker is a journal I read every week. I read Variety every day, and I think their iPad edition is fantastic. In fact, I hardly ever read the print version of the weekly Variety anymore. I do think it's editorially come down in quality. I'm a very avid listener to my iTunes, and, well, in fact, mostly stuff I've transferred to it. I'm a great lover of classical music, so
there's music.
I listen to a lot of chamber music. I catch up on lots of podcasts. I'm very fond of podcasts, you know, for serious talk stuff. I watch a huge amount of television. Obviously, I always have a television on wherever I am. I think I've got 8 televisions at home, 8 Foxtel connected televisions. I think I know Sky News' and Sky News Business's schedules as well as Angelo Frangopoulos.
Right.
I also watch the other news channels on Foxtel, ranging from the business channels through to the general news channels. Personal pleasure television for me is seen in the Lifestyle Channel group and in wildlife programming. I'm always been a sucker for wildlife programming. I like our general entertainment channels, and like Anthony, I'm a great movie buff, and I am a real addicted movie buff. I have a huge library of movies, and now, of course, I have a huge library of movies with Foxtel On Demand, which I'm a very regular user of in the internet enablement of the Foxtel IQ.
You should think about running Foxtel.
And HD is something that I think anyone who becomes familiar with it becomes very addictive. So that Fox Sports, and I watch a lot of Fox Sports, both out of personal interest and also professional care.
Magazines
and
apps.
having all of those things in HD is remarkable. I don't think it's very hard to go from HD sport back to an ordinary thing.
Really?
In terms of magazines, Australian magazines, like anyone in the media, I flick through a lot of Australian magazines. I read a lot of trade journals. I read Ad News. I read Media Week. They are the 2 major local trades that I read avidly. I'm also very interested in general entertainment magazines, because I think that's where you understand the public zeitgeist and where public taste and the sort of the layers of public opinion are moving. They're very influential. You know, I always flick through the Woman's Weekly. Look through That's Life and other. You know, you've got to stay connected. You've got to be aware of what's happening around you.
Core apps, key apps for you?
Oh, I have so many apps.
That you use?
In fact, I'm a bowerbird, so I like to move around a lot. I don't play games. I think they're just. I'm too old for that, and it's not. It's just not for me. No, I don't have Angry Birds. I don't have it. Sometimes someone will pinch my iPad and as a joke will put some of that stuff in there and I'll just delete it. I learned quickly how to delete things in the iPad. I have so many applications. I actually have those little home things that house about 10 applications inside them, so you can fit them on a reduced number of screens.
Do you think you're consuming more now than you were in the past, or is it just different platforms and devices?
Oh, I think I consume much more. The one thing I'm sad...
He also doesn't sleep.
Well, I've never been a big sleeper, but I'm a very keen bibliophile, and I've got quite a large personal library, and I don't read books as much as I used to, which is a source of sadness for me. And I do look forward to getting back to much more active book reading than unfortunately I'm able to do now. I probably only read a book every week or fortnight.
In retirement, Paul, that's about the only time we get to read books, isn't it?
It's a pretty sad performance, a book a week. E-readers and e-books?
I love my Kindle. My Kindle, in fact, my Kindle is my favourite reading device, more than an iPad. I think it's a much more friendly reading device than the iPad.
Radio, finally.
Love radio. Graze over a lot of radio. Try to stay in touch with some contemporary music, although I have to freely admit it's not my mainstream taste. Classic FM sometimes interests me from the ABC, although I think its programming's a bit ordinary. I'd rather self-program from my own music library. In terms of AM stations, I go across the range of opinion, whether that's from the ABC or from the major AM stations in Sydney and Melbourne. And I graze pretty freely on both because I like to stay in touch. And of course in Melbourne there's also stations like Triple M and SEN, which are very relevant to a company like ours because Triple M is such an important sports broadcaster in Melbourne and has such an interesting breakfast program, which is more like a sophisticated AM program than an FM program, given that it has so much talk. It's a really interesting station, I find.
I can't help myself.
Sort of my default station.
You did say you had some issues with the City Morning Herald. What are those?
I don't think we have time to go into that.
Well, you've got 10 seconds.
I think they could rediscover what it is to run a good newspaper.